it was daunting and scary to say that out loud to a class of white writers because you're like, they won't get it. I absolutely know that 1,000% they will not get it. And they did and they didn't. And sh she did not get it. And it just went downhill from there.
All right. We have a podcast and it's called POV, the Melanin Perspective Podcast. We're so happy. My name is Kendra.
Hi, I'm Jillian.
We are going to just introduce ourselves and then get into what this podcast is all about. I am a writer and filmmaker aspiring to get and break into the business, which is what this podcast is really all about. And I came to screenwriting because I loved film and television at such a young age, and just fell in love with it. And it incited my dreams to become a screenwriter, but my life had totally different kind of plans for me. So it wasn't like, I woke up at like 18 and wanted to do this, even though I'd always like had those dreams deep down in me. But my life had a up and down trajectory, and I was a caretaker for my nephews. I worked in crisis response. I worked in the museum space, and traveled from in London, Shanghai, and different things. And I soon came back and then, studied creative writing in undergrad, and then went on to do screenwriting in graduate school, which is where I met Jillian. So I used all those tools that I had in crisis response and being one of the caretakers of my nephews, and just my experience as a Black woman in America, and, put all those things into who I am as a writer. And I think that was one of the things that Jillian and I connected on, as being two women of color that wanted to write about the things in our lives that we connected to. And because we didn't see that growing up. Jillian has like a really beautiful, articulation of that, of not seeing herself represented in on screen, and that I connect with that so deeply. So that brought us to this journey of this podcast of like wanting to break into the business, being two women of color that love storytelling and screenwriting. And so that is a little bit about me. Jillian, can you say a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So yeah, I am Jillian, of course, and very unarticulate right now. I'm very uncomfortable because I'm so nervous. We're both definitely writers because yeah, this is insane that we're doing this, and also is super exciting, and I think just an exciting journey that we didn't see was going to happen, but when somebody gave us the idea, we just went with it, and super excited, like really excited to do this, to start this journey with you, Kendra. So yeah, like Kendra said, she has a beautiful bio, beautiful background, and she became just a successful writer, because we're not aspiring writers, we are writers, even though we may not be in the industry right now, but that's okay. That's going to change soon. For me, really, to get to know me is to think of a quiet, book smart, introvert, and add a little bit of Latina spice to her. So of course, as a little girl, I've always wanted to work in the movie and TV industry, even if I didn't know what that meant or how you do that. Just I wanted to be on screen, and I grew up with that idea. And then, as I grew up, I was one of those millennials that watched these skinny, beautiful, amazing actresses that were very white, that were leading these films and TV shows, that I inspired to be like one day. And as I got older, I realized just one little tiny thing, which was that those women were very white, beautiful, and skinny. And well, they were very white, and I am not white at all. Let's just put it that way. Because, so yeah, so I wanted to do something about it. So I was in the industry with, it was a professional actress for a while. I realized that a lot of the characters that I would get, or a lot of the people that I would audition for, were very stereotypical, which is the maid, the um, background characters, the nothing, the best friend that nothing happens to them because they're there to help the white lead figure out their lives. And I got so discouraged. And then one day I realized that that is just something that I had to do something about it. So I became a writer and I started college and then I took my first writing course and it changed my life. So I didn't know how to write, but I was like, I have stories and I feel like I can do something with that. And I really became a writer just so I could write lead characters that represent me and my culture, and other girls and boys and anybody else that has the same culture as me. So I grew up in Culver City, so which is, I'm an LA native for life, and I grew up with the movies and TV industry all around me. So I knew that's something that I needed to do, and I also wanted to depict the citizens that have different jobs, the struggles of racism, injustice, stereotypes that they had to endure, that I had to endure, which we will talk about later. But and then also just having LA as a huge part of my life. So I really led with that. I did end up going through kind of a windy road when it came to writing because the biggest thing that I struggled with, and I think everybody can relate to that, is just the self-esteem. I never thought that I was pretty enough. And it really went back to that. Well, the pretty white girls are on screen and white males too. And I don't see me on there. And it was very discouraging, and it led me to different roads. I mean, yeah, I got different degrees, but I wasn't happy in them. And so I finally just said, no, enough is enough, and I'm going to choose what I want to do. And to heck with all the stereotypes because I'm going to change my mindset and I'm going to change myself and I'm going to do something that I love. And that's how I got into graduate school. And I ended up meeting this wonderful lady. And the second we met, we just hit it off immediately. And then I was just like, oh, this is my life friend forever. And as women of color, we both really connected with that. And even though we're not working as working writers, we still have a lot to offer and definitely want to go through the journey together. And then also with you, just so that you're not discouraged, you're going through the journey with us. So, yeah, that's a little about me.
That was so beautiful, Jillian. I mean, just such a great articulation of and just of your story. And I think what you touched on is that not seeing yourself represented, it does take a toll on one's self-esteem, and you start to question, can I do this? I mean, that's one of the things that we connected on hearing one another's stories. Is like you when you don't see yourself represented, and or you're the accessory to the white woman, like you were saying, like you're the friend that nothing ever happens to, and you're very much marginalized on screen and how that reflects. And so that was one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, to, as Jillian said so beautifully at the end, so that we're not in the business just yet. We're not like working in the business just yet, but we want to grow with our audience and grow with one another as friends, as women of color. And we want to do, as you said, to like get rid of all those stereotypical characters, and just to really talk about our backgrounds and our cultures in a true, authentic way, and bring that to the screen. And so this is one of those ways, in that bringing the representation and growing with people who want to step into the business is one of the ways that we're representing ourselves. And so I think you just really so beautifully summed that up. You can tell she's a writer. You know, she just said all those really wonderful things, and it was like a mic drop moment. And I'm so feel so grateful and so blessed to be doing this with you. And so my heart is very full. So just so excited.
Thank you so much. And the same for you. I mean, I feel like as we grow with our audience, we have to get used to like the idea of, at least I have to, that somebody else is gonna be watching this and not just the two of us. Like where it's always been for the last like 4 years where we've just been like just talking to amongst ourselves and nobody's listening. But I think I'm just excited to actually give somebody who is going to happen upon this podcast and just our friendship and be inspired by it and be like, oh, great, these are people who are these two writers who are trying to get in the business. And I can relate to that because now I get to go through that journey with them. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. I would have loved that.
Oh, me too. Exactly. We both said that we would love to have seen that because it's such a motivational thing. And I'm saying our audience, even though we don't have an audience just yet, because we both are big believers in manifestation, and so we're manifesting this. And um, also we want to say very importantly that we stand with SAG-AFTRA. We stand in solidarity, and we are very much out there on the picket lines and striking. We were there throughout the WGA strike, and we are also there with SAG. Jillian, you said something really, really great, which is without actors, there's no writers. We can't, be in production on anything because, actors are the instruments and the vessels in which to say these words and that people connect to and see themselves reflected in. So we very much stand in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA, and we are, you know, hoping for the best outcome for everyone's livelihood and, just respecting their profession.
Yes, we absolutely need to discuss our amazing time on the picket line with fellow actors, fellow writers in support, everybody else, producers or whatever, what have you. But the actor strike, this one in particular, we went to the Warner Brothers one, and it was so crowded. It had to have been what, at least like 200 people. It felt like it because it was so crowded, but the energy was so incredible. It was so inspiring. Everybody was together, rubbing shoulders with one another. Nobody cared who, what have you done? No IMDb checks. Like it was just everybody was in solidarity, and it was so inspiring. Every picket line that I have gone to, especially in front of the WB, has been. Do you know the actress Jerry Ryan? She does a lot of TV shows. She was there when we were there, and every time that I have gone, and I've gone a handful of times, she is always at the on the picket lines, just walking, whether she's with people or by herself. And it's so inspiring because it's like there are people out there. Yeah, she may not, I hope this isn't offensive to her, but she may not be like the biggest star in the entire universe. I know of her. She's on TV shows. She's iconic. And it's just inspiring that it's something that one of these is that, she just wants to be there to support. It has nothing about vanity with it. Like there are pictures of her, but it was just like, wow, every time I've gone, I've never said anything to her because I've always respected. But that was just so inspiring that everybody's just like, no, we're all fighting for each other. They're fighting for us who are not in the industry yet, but we will be. And that's what's inspiring. Also, I have a picture of myself on the Getty Images. Let's talk about this for a second, because I'm gonna make it into a shirt. You and I on our picket line, and didn't realize that. Of course, there was, I guess, celebrity photographers, and they uh, they took a picture of me, and I was looking at the Getty Images, and there I am, right smack dab in the middle, in the back, in between two iconic women, Elaine Hendricks, and then the mother from Back to the Future, Leah Thompson, whose daughter is like taking over the world because I see her and everything. But Leah Thompson, and then they both. I posted it on my Instagram and I had it like opened because I was just like maybe they'll end up seeing it because I tagged them, which is like kind of cheesy, but I don't know. And I was just like, maybe I'll just feel cool for a minute. And they both liked it. They both like liked it on my Instagram. And I was like, I was like, I felt so, thank you to them for liking me with my 200 followers picture, and I definitely will put it as a t-shirt because I need that as a t-shirt. I'm a sucker for t-shirts. So
I'll buy the t-shirt.
my one fan.
You can autograph the back.
Anyways, I think we went off tangent, which we normally do anyways, but yes, strikes, amazing people there. Thank you for welcoming us and giving us shirts, and even the people who are volunteers. The volunteers are so nice.
They're so nice, so dedicated. They're in there, out there, rain or shine. They're making sure everyone gets across the street safely and everyone, gets out of there at a certain time, and just so dedicated, so caring. I mean, again, just like with what you were saying, people are out there every day, fighting for not only the present but for the future, so that people can make a decent living, following their dreams. And then also a lot, it's more than just pay. There's so many different things that it encompasses, and the energy, as you're saying, out there is just amazing. Everyone's there for a unified purpose, and everyone like understands each other, how difficult it is to be in the arts and artists to do this job. So everyone's in there, even though it's a difficult time because people have been out of work. That these going on the picket lines is kind of like a highlight, because we're all able to stand together in solidarity and hold each other up on one another's shoulders, so that we know we can see everyone can see what they're fighting for, like all these wonderful people around them that are trying to grow and progress and to make a living and to be respected in their profession, and amongst all those other things that we're fighting for, but that everyone's fighting for. So it's so wonderful to be out on the picket line. So wonderful to see people that you love, like actors and people that you love, and then also to experience this really wonderful unity and empowering.
Yes, empowering. Yes, that's the best part. Empowering. And I overheard somebody said that they're gonna miss being on the picket line, as even though they're there for something really important. I get that because you just feel like you belong. You're fighting nobody. It's not about ego. It's just about fighting for everybody in the industry who deserve what they're asking, who deserve to get paid, not 5 cents for an episode. So yeah, so agreed, yeah.
So that was such a wonderful discussion on picket lines, and it's so prevalent. And so I'm happy that we're able to discuss that. And we can go into like the thesis of this, podcast as to why we started it, because I mean, we touched on that a little bit. We want to go on a journey with everyone as two women of color, as we step into and fight our way to get into the business, but also that we met at a really wonderful time in our writing careers, as we were going to school, and both of us having such kind of similar situations. I mean, Jillian and I were both working throughout our graduate school experience. We were both commuting from far places in order to get to class. When we both came into the program, we were not writing about people that looked like us and that were representing us, because it was such a far out idea. Like it was like it wasn't something that was readily accepted in the classroom setting. It wasn't something that was uh, it was something that we had to grow in our confidence to be able to do, because it was very radical, being writing about a person of color, a woman of color, writing about like you were saying, LA, like writing about certain areas in LA. Like all of that was so not what was being put up in workshop. And so we were, one day we were sitting outside of a coffee shop, as writers do, and we were discussing like, our shared experience, and how much we had to grow into being the writers that we are today, meaning writing characters that represent us and represent people that look like us and represent our cultures, our backgrounds and environments. And that was the reason why we really wanted to one of the reasons why we really wanted to make this podcast is that to be empowered to write stories that reflect us, that reflect our experiences, and so that we can write those things and make them come to fruition and on screen, so that others can watch it and feel a sense of belonging and feel a sense of acceptance within themselves. And it was amazing how much parallels that we had in our journey to writing, and how when we sat down and talked about it, we were kind of like shocked, like, oh my goodness, like there's so much that we have in common. And I know so many people out there may feel that, like, I'm fighting to get my story to be heard, or I'm fighting to feel worthy in different spaces. And so that was one of the reasons why we wanted to come here and have this podcast, is because we wanted to share our stories with you of becoming writers that became more confident in who we were as storytellers of color, as women of color, and writing those things. Julie, do you have anything to add to that?
As insane as it might be to hear this, you and I, it was shocking in a way to hear that when a teacher tells you you shouldn't write with a white voice, you should write with your voice. And it's like, well, of course I am. You and I wrote white characters, and not saying that, white characters need to write, white people don't have problems and diminish, any characters like that. I mean, some of the great movies, are with white characters. It is really just to say that we, as women of color, as for this is for anybody of color, wants to see ourselves represented. Like, please, this is we just want to grow up and see ourselves, and we want the future to not feel that we are not worthy of a good story. And so going in as a writer, I always imagine, like, okay, to get noticed is to write in the white perspective, and then bring people of color in the background. And then maybe if I'm good enough, they'll accept a story with a Latina as the lead, or anything like that, or a Hispanic family. And when that teacher during our MFA, when she pulled me aside and was just like, you need to write with your voice, because there's only one voice and you need to write it. And it was just like, she's absolutely right. And oh my gosh, the journey that you and I had when we decided to change from a Caucasian character to a Black or a Mexican character. Um, we'll definitely discuss that later on. But it's empowering to have somebody go through the same journey as you. And yeah, we are like, I believe everybody has soulmates, and when it doesn't need to be about love. I think about when your shared interests, and you and I, you're my writing mate. You are the one I bounce ideas off of, and I'm like, is this too like cheesy? And every time I share an idea with you, I'm always expecting you to be like, this is actually not good. Like, girl, stop. And every time you are right there with me. You're like, this is good. You can improve this, you can improve that. And it's really about, I always thought that you would have to have like a group of writers, and you always hear about that. There's like 20 of us and we all write and we share. But really, it is just finding that one person that you gel with, that gets you, and you get them, and no story idea is wild enough for them. And that's you and I. And I appreciate that teacher awakening me by saying that. Maybe it could be a little too late. No, it was probably at the right time. That I needed to hear it, because it was a good and crazy journey that I've been on thus far, that we've been on thus far after that comment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you were so right. I think that it's the fact that we found each other, that you had that professor say that to you. I think it's such a deeply influential time, and it's during that time of being in class and writing, and then having someone else in class that was just like, no, I'm going to write about a Mexican character. I'm going to write about a Mexican family. I'm going to write about all the things that were going on in the world. Because again, we were in graduate school when some really heavy things were happening in the world, and in those heavy things that were happening for Black people, for Latinx people, for all of these things, for Mexican people, for immigrants, for all of these things, all of those, so many of those things were under attack, and it was so pressing, and to write about those things while it was happening is a really, really complex experience. And I'm so happy we had each other, because I just really don't think I would have been able to get through some of the classes and some of the emotional things that were asked of us as writers to do, to rise to that occasion, to write with that authenticity and write with that vulnerability at a time where it was so difficult. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I think and to talk about like how we navigated things such as racism in the classroom, how we navigated talking about very vulnerable things at very vulnerable times, how we navigated getting notes on things that maybe we know to be true in our life experience, but maybe other people are like, I've never even heard of that. Like I've never even, heard of, like, if someone is a doctor and they're, where they in their country and they come here and they can't be that. Like, I've never even heard of that. That doesn't sound realistic, but it is, and so having people question things that are totally true and grounded in truth, that maybe other people weren't familiar with, is, is a very hard thing to swallow, tough thing to swallow. So we'll be talking a lot about finding your people, how to deal with notes that are, or suggestions, or different things that are, that kind of negate what you're trying to communicate, or make or belittle what you're trying to communicate, and just navigating through those difficult things, how to basically write from a more authentic place, and how we found like the strength to do that and the wisdom to do that. And so those are some of the things that we're gonna like talk about and go over here too. And so we're really excited about diving into those kind of difficult subjects so we can impart like how we got through it and whatever wisdom we derived from those moments. One of the incidents or events that really, got us talking about starting this podcast, and we thought it would be really important to share. And it was during our time during our graduate school program, and it's about one particular class. And our journey to that class was quite. We registered for that class. So Jillian and I, before the semester started, we wanted to be in the same classes. So we literally got up early. We picked out our classes that we wanted to be in, and we were able to, which is anybody who's been to graduate school or been to college or any kind of anything, whether it be college or concert or anything, that you have to get the tickets or register for a class within a certain time period, unless you're not going to get in it. Like, you have to plan ahead. And so we planned ahead. We got we got a similar class schedule, so we were able to get our last two classes of the day together. So we had an adaptation class first, and then we had another class, a pilot writing class, second after that. And so we would be together for probably about 7 hours, 6, 7 hours. And it was really good because we both, as we said, commuted to school. We both had jobs, and so we had the later times in classes, so we're able to get those two classes. And so when we registered for those two classes and we did our adaptation class, we got that one over with, and then we walked into our pilot class, and we were both in the same spot. So we stayed in the same, it was in the same room. We stayed in the same spots, and we waited for that particular professor to arrive. Again, excited, nervous. We were always excited and nervous because we didn't know, much about what the classes were going to be about. And so we were excited and nervous, and but we were happy that we got the class together. And thank goodness. Can you imagine if we didn't have the class together? That would have been a total disaster.
No, no, yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. I'm thankful we got our classes. And yeah, we woke up. I think it was 8 o'clock that we had to register, and I remember texting each other at like 7:45, 7:50, 7:55. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And yeah, you have to fight for your classes. There's like only what, 8 spots, and it's like 8 spots, and you're fighting 20 other students for that one spot in the class. And gosh, I don't miss that.
Oh no, I don't miss that at all.
I definitely think it's important to note that in our MFA program, we were very few women of color, people of color, I should say, in our little cohort. Um, so that's kind of one of the reasons why we stuck close together, because um, it's very lonely when you are surrounded with, I mean, very well-intentioned, amazing white writers who are not horrible at all, who are so respectful. But sometimes you just want somebody there that gets it, that gets the things that you've gone through, that they don't experience, that probably will never experience. So I think that's why you and I were just so adamant on getting classes together, because at least we have each other's backs. And thank goodness, especially for this class, because boy, did we need it.
The class that we're talking about is the pilot class that we were in. We heard a little bit about that particular professor. What should we call this professor? Because we're going to change the name for identity purposes.
It'd be easy to do Karen, but what if we do like Cheryl or something?
Let's do Cheryl. We had heard, some about Cheryl, but we didn't really know what was going to, happen. And so we got to the class. It was already dark outside. We'd been there for hours. And Cheryl walks to the door and sits down, and she was kind of out there, right?
Mhm. Very, very out there.
She went through a rundown of her career. She's the one that did the movie with the prominent siblings, right?
Yeah, she had her one hit wonder there. Which is funny because you and I grew up with that particular movie, watching that.
And then she also passed out a check where she showed us how much she got paid for a particular project, which I was kind of taken aback by. But hello, she passed on a check um, that showed her income for that project, and so she said, "One day we can be like this. We can make money as she makes money." She tells us to uh, write an assignment where you write 5 pages with an idea of what you want your pilot to be. What did you think of her at first? And what did you think of the assignment that she gave us?
So yeah, and in this particular class, I think there was one other woman of color, and then the rest were white writers. So that's definitely, and she is a white writer, so that's definitely important to note. First class was very intimidating. The assignment, you and I, so we started our career as feature writers, and so it's movies, writing for movies. And then the pilot class, when they're like, you have to write a TV show, and it's like, what? We have to do that? What do you mean? That's scary. Like, I can only write 120 pages, like 30 pages. What do you what do you mean? Um, and and then we were told, that was our last year, and then we were told, we're like, oh, by the way, there's more jobs as TV writers than movie writers. Like, good luck with that, by the way. And so it's just like, oh, great. So this was really writing on everything. Like, and of course, she was a feature writer, teaching a pilot class, a TV. So it's very different writing skills that you have if you're listening and don't know. I mean, TV shows and movies are obviously different. And so, it's a different kind of side of the brain that you have to use. And so when she gave us the assignment on, oh, choose something that you want to write about, I think you and I were so stumped because we wanted something like so cool and edgy and something that people would want to watch. And then, you know, my the only idea I could think of was my is about a family of illegal immigrants living in LA, and that's really the only thing that I had, and I was like very adamant that I'm just gonna stick to that. That's the only story I have. My brain doesn't work TV. Now that's changed completely because of the idea of having to get a job, and TV is where getting your job is, especially if you're beginning. It was daunting and scary to say that out loud to a class of white writers because you're like they won't get it. I absolutely know that 1,000% they will not get it, and they did and they didn't, and sh she did not get it, and and it just went downhill from there.
I think that's the perfect way to end this episode. I just want to say to Jillian how wonderful it is for you to be telling this story. How difficult that time was, and I know we haven't gotten to that yet, but she handled it with grace, with pride in who she is and what she writes, and she made things better for the next people.
Well, thank you, and I couldn't have done it without you and your support. And yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. Oh,
Thank you, everyone, and anyone who joined us. Probably my mom. Hi.
yeah, my brothers. If you made it this far, it's nice finally us stopping our lives and doing something for ourselves. Because after, and we need to talk about after graduation because it can be such a lonely time, and doing this um though we discovered it a little late, but I think it was the right time, that this is bringing us together and we're talking about writing, and in the time where the strikes are happening and everything's so unsure still, unfortunately, but it won't be like that forever. And it's just nice to get together, and anybody that's listening, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. We really hope we're sorry this is like so raw. We're trying, but we really just, I mean, you're getting a glimpse into our friendship. The way that we're always talking and discussing about writing and all that. But you know, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for even listening to this one episode. We hope you like the rest of them. We hope you continue on. We have we have a face or no an Instagram, TikTok page that you can follow us. We'll be blasting this on everything. Um, yeah, and we hope that you join and follow and like yeah, just like us.
Yeah, just like us, like me, pick me. The TikTok, yeah, the pick me, yeah. Oh, well, thank you, everyone, and we're just so excited, and thank you so much, and we will see you next time for episode 2 of POV, the Melanin Perspective, with me, Kendra, and Jillian, and we're so happy. So thank you so much for joining us. Okay, bye.